Good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get started with our SEBA Connect tips and tricks. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. I'm going to be posing some questions throughout the webinar. If you could press *7 to talk and then *6 to mute your line back as we go through the slides. So welcome to our webinar on charting the process. We'll go through step-by-step visualizing your operations at your agency. So the objective is to present this tool that we've created here at the Commission through our Hands United program. And with this tool, you'll be able to chart your step-by-step flow of operations and tasks, including but not limited to seeing what HIV testing looks like, being able to develop your policies and procedures. It'll help you to identify points and where problems might occur within your day-to-day operations, and it'll help you to define your best strategies for service integration purposes. So within our time together, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to introduce this tool and take a look at what it looks like, and then we'll go over the rationale for this tool and components that you'll be able to use within your agency.
Oh, yeah.
This is a quick view at what the tool looks like. The first page, we talk about charting the process. We take a look at what the process is, some flow charting symbols, and then the second page, we go through an example of a process at an agency. In this case, it'll be HIV testing. So to start out, what is a process? You can go ahead and unmute your lines to respond. So a process is defined as a series of actions, changes, or functions bringing about a result. So what's the purpose of developing a process flowchart? A flowchart is a visual tool that's used to analyze or represent programs or systems. Process flowchart depicts a step-by-step flow of operations or a particular task. So some examples might be, what does HIV testing look like in your agency? What does the staff selection or hiring process look like? And what does the development process look like at your agency? So some reasons why it's important to develop a process flowchart is that it helps you to develop and understand these step-by-step processes or tasks that happen at your agency. It gives you a chance to analyze and improve these processes, and it helps others to be able to understand these processes. When it comes to planning a task, process flowcharts can be used for task-oriented things within your agency. So for example, outreach, they can be used for program-oriented things within your agency. So one example would be the integration of HIV testing with your ARTIS or linkage to care programs. Or it can be used to process the flow of agency-wide tasks. For example, what's the relation to the finance department and program implementation?
Who is this? Who is this? And he says, the lawyer from Guadalupe. I'm like, yes. I said, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of
something.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, Guadalupe. Okay, yeah. Amy's client who's being like, who has.
Could you please push *6 to mute your line? Thank you. So some of the popular flow charting symbols are listed here. We'll see the top is the oval, and that represents the starting and ending point of any process. The arrows show a connector from a relationship from one action to another within the processes, and we see the rectangle as a process or a step within the process, and the diamond represents a decision that needs to be made. And these are not this is not the extensive list of all of the flowcharting symbols. There's quite a few other symbols which you can find at drawsmart.com. But these are the main 4 that are used when you're creating a flowchart. So as we said before, process flowcharts help to see what's missing when it comes to services. It helps you to find the challenges that you may be experiencing during program implementation. It helps you to identify areas where strategies can be developed for collective impact. So for example, integration of services. And it helps to enhance service delivery and efficiency by identifying where bottlenecks might occur within a process. So let's go through this example of a process flowchart when it comes to HIV targeted testing. So we're starting out and we're using recruitment for social network strategy to bring people in for our testing program, which leads to someone coming in. So the first process we're going to do is we're going to do a pre-screening of that person to determine whether they're eligible for our targeted testing program. So are they a part of our priority population? If that person is a part of our priority population, then we ask the question, is this person at high risk and from our priority population? So if the answer is no, what we're going to do is we're going to refer them to appropriate services. So that might be internally or externally. So maybe we're going to refer them to a PrEP program we have. Maybe we're going to refer them to an alternate location where they can get an HIV test. If we ask, is this person at high risk and from our priority population, and the answer is yes, we're going to move forward with our testing. We're going to introduce them to our testing and orient them to our testing intervention that happens. The next process would be to conduct that rapid HIV test. And while the test is running, the next process would be to conduct a brief risk assessment with this individual. Step 4 is we're going to provide that initial result to the client. If that test is non-reactive, we're going to move forward. The next process would be 4A. We're going to follow up. We're going to work with that client to develop a prevention plan for high-risk negatives, and we're going to move on to C, which is a whole other process, and work towards referring them for appropriate services. If that test result comes back and it's reactive, we're going to follow up with a confirmatory test, which is 4B, the process of 4B. We're also going to report those results to city and state, depending on who you're funded from, or federal, depending on who you're funded from. And the next process would be process 5. We're going to notify that client of the reactive and confirmatory test. We'll work with them to develop a care plan and prevention plan. And then step 4, or process 4, would be linkage to care. And thinking back to the flowchart symbols that we discussed, that oval is a start and end. So we see at process 6, that is the end of our HIV targeted testing process flowchart, but it's orange because it will begin a secondary flowchart. So essentially from process number 6, we could then move into a whole nother process flowchart that would show us what linkage to care looks like at our agency, and that would be a whole different process flowchart where we would have a diamond and a rectangle and arrows showing what that process looks like. So at this point, I just want to check in and see if there are any questions in regards to these process flowcharts or the flowchart that we just went through. You can push *7 to ask your question. So it seems as though as there are no questions, we're going to move forward with the presentation. So process flowcharts can lead to, as we said before, these can lead to our policies and procedures. So once we've outlined what this process looks like specifically for HIV testing that we just went through, we can now sit down and write our procedural manual when it comes to HIV testing using our SNS program. It is also going to help us when it comes to calculating our staff needs. So once we've outlined what this process looks like, we'll be able to know, okay, we're going to need 3 HIV testers on staff. Processing flowcharts can also lead to figuring out our budget. So we'll know how much we need to be spending on incentives, marketing materials for our programs. All of that can be identified once we've processed out what our intervention, our strategy, what HIV testing looks like at our agency. So just some things to consider when you're creating your process flowcharts. There's no right way to draw your process. Your process is going to be specific to what this task looks like within your agency. And that everyone involved in this process should be involved in creating this process flowchart. So we want to have buy-in. We want to know what this process looks like to everyone. So one suggestion that we have is it's a great team building exercise to get all of your, say, HIV testers that you have on staff, have everyone come together and everyone draw out the process as they see it when it comes to HIV testing, and then take a look at everyone's charts and see where are the differences, what can be changed, and then that'll help you to create your agency-wide process flowchart for HIV testing in this example that we're using. So at this point again, are there any final comments, questions in regards to the tool? Great. Well, it seems as though there are no questions or concerns, or um, so we just want to say thank you for attending this quick SEBA Connect tips and tools. Following the end of this session, you will get an email with a survey as well as the tool that was discussed today. If you have any follow-up questions or concerns, you can reach out to SEBA Division at latinoaids.org. Thank you. Bye-bye.